There we go. For those of you that have already jumped on and joined our live feed, thanks for joining us. We're going to wait a couple more minutes and just make sure that other people have some time to jump on and make sure that we're live across all of our social platforms. So we're live, but no one is there yet, it looks like. So I'm hearing like the Jeopardy music in my head. Do, 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 do. For those of you who have joined our live feed, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We are just waiting a couple of minutes for other people to jump on some of our other social media platforms. So now would be a great time to grab a drink, coffee or tea or something, and we will get going in a minute or two. Thanks. Sounds like we can get things going. So thank you again for all that have already jumped on our live feed. This is April's edition of Talk It Out, and our focus this month has been on anxiety. Joining me tonight is Rebecca Rakow from the CMHA Saskatchewan. Rebecca, thanks for joining, and I'm going to hand it over to you to introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. I'm Rebecca Rakow. I'm the Director of Advocacy, Research and Public Policy Development here at the Canadian Mental Health Association, Saskatchewan Division. We do some research. We also do some individual advocacy. We have some programs here that we do that I work on, as well as we have a recovery college here that offers things like recovery college courses, as well as certificate courses like Living Works as Assist and Safe Talk and like that. So I'm also an assist trainer. I'm a social worker. I've been doing this for about 8 years now. So that's me.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining. And I guess I should probably introduce myself too. My name is Megs Reynolds, and I am the Executive Director of the Do More Agriculture Foundation. So we'll jump in. Our topic this month has been on anxiety. We heard from Matt Kelly, who is a farmer in Saskatchewan who suffers from anxiety, and his wife, Leslie, as well, who has been his support. And so we've had amazing conversations that we've shared so far. And Rebecca and I have also done a video talking about anxiety. So this is the follow-up. We've got some questions to go through, some questions that have been put in through our website prior to tonight. So we'll kick things off by maybe just telling everyone who's out there what can be the signs to look for anxiety if you think you're maybe experiencing it, or someone that is in your family dynamic or friend circle.
All right. Well, anxiety is it's always confusing, I think, for folks, because it describes an emotion that we feel. It also describes a clinical situation, a mental health issue. So anxiety at its healthy state is that feeling of, nervousness or whatever that keeps you sharp, that keeps you motivated, that, for example, if I have a presentation to do or something the night before, I might feel a little bit like lack of sleep going through some of the things ahead of time, but that's actually a healthy bit of anxiety, because it's making sure that I feel comfortable and confident knowing what I'm going to say, right? When that goes to an unhealthy level, it makes a person kind of overthink everything, feel constantly, like thoughts are running constantly in your head, and you're worried about things that normally wouldn't worry you. And then it can cause lack of sleep. It can cause difficulty eating and that sort of upset with that. And it can cause a lot of thoughts running through your head that interfere with your regular daily tasks, right? So that's when it becomes unhealthy. And there are a lot of associated disorders that come from heightened levels of anxiety as well. But you'd know that you're struggling with anxiety if you can't make the worries of everything, things that don't even normally worry you. You can't make them stop. Or if you feel overwhelmed a lot. So you're already thinking all these thoughts, and other things are coming into your world, and you can't seem to navigate through it as well as you normally would. That's when you might start to think that, I think I might be struggling with anxiety.
That's really good background, because it is almost unfortunate that anxiety disorder has the same name as anxiety, which is an emotion that we feel, because that can be confusing. And I think there's times maybe in just the way that we as society talk about things, we can make it seem like that having any anxiety in our life is a negative, and it means that we have, are at a place where we might be diagnosed with having clinical anxiety, where, like, to your point, a little bit of a feeling of anxiousness around, when it's attached to maybe doing something new, or a presentation, or starting a new job, or something along those lines, can actually be a positive and a beneficial to how we approach things and how we react to things.
Yeah, and the thing is too, it's something that's in us, like all of us. It's a part of the human experience. The thing is that when it becomes unhealthy, it's like that part of you has overrun other healthy parts. It's running away from you, kind of thing. It's getting away from you. So yeah, it's actually, your natural feelings and natural parts that are there to help you end up kind of harming or becoming harmful.
Mm-hmm. I just want to remind anyone watching right now, please feel free to put questions into the live chat that you're watching on. We do have a lovely team member who's monitoring that, and she will pass the questions along. So feel free at any point to ask us questions. We're here to have a conversation. And just to jump back into it. So I think maybe the biggest takeaway for what to look for either in ourselves or someone within our circle is really like when those anxious feelings or that feeling of being overwhelmed gets to the point or crosses the line where now suddenly it's more controlling our day-to-day in our lives.
Yeah, and that when you're not the person struggling with anxiety, but you're somebody who's watching it, it can look like somebody being very nervous, second guessing a lot of things. It can look like being agitated or more easily angered because all of these things are weighing heavy on the person's thoughts, right? So it can look like that. In stronger cases of anxiety, it can look like a panic attack or an anxiety attack. And it can look like any number of the anxiety disorders that happen that stem from anxiety are a lot more out of control because of extra stressors or something. So I'm thinking of things like phobias, or if a person struggles with OCD or trick, or like, you know, where you're pulling up your hair, or other anxiety disorders like that. They get worse, or like more worse if they're being triggered by extra stress and extra levels of anxiety and that sort of thing as well. So if you know that, you know, your daughter is usually afraid of spiders, but they don't usually, you know, scream and are constantly looking to see if there's something on them or something like that. But now they're probably at a higher level of anxiety than normal.
Yeah, that makes sense. And that's good to understand how that can manifest in others. If you are that person who's looking, you know, who's concerned about someone in their life and, you know, trying to figure out how do I best support this person. If you are noticing an increase in those things, or you're thinking that someone in your life might be experiencing anxiety, how is the best way to go about that conversation with them, or to bring up what you're noticing?
Oh, that can be kind of hard actually, because a lot of people are very defensive about like, I'm fine, you know. So making sure that you're very gentle about it and not saying, you know, something harsh about something that they're doing, but rather just being gentle about it. Like, I've noticed that you seem very, like, much more jumpy than usual. Like every time the doorbell rings, you're jumping out of your seat and you seem far more agitated. Are you okay? And is something bothering you, or are you struggling? Because I know that this can be a sign of anxiety, you know, and putting that on your education rather than their actions as well. I've noticed this and this and that, and I've heard that those can be signs of anxiety. Do you think you might have that? Or should we get that checked? Should we look into that further? I could help you. That sort of thing is probably a more gentler way of doing that.
And do you, because I know just through some of my personal interactions, it's not usually the first time that you have that conversation or try to have that conversation that, you know, that person is in a place to have it, or is in a place where they're able to acknowledge and maybe accept what they're, you know, experiencing and what they're feeling. So is it just recommended then to keep, you know, as gently as possible when that, you know, to back away if that person's not ready, but then come back at a later time and kind of go through those motions again, saying, hey, like, I know I've checked in before and brought up these things, and I've noticed that they're, you know, still going on, and is there like at some point where you just kind of are crossing the line that maybe is adding to what they're experiencing?
Again, that's going to depend on the individual. So like if it's your coworker and you're not terribly close with them, there might be a point where you want to back away a little bit and give them some space, because you asking might actually be causing even more anxiety in their mind. But if it's like a family member, and that family member is someone you're very close to, you can maybe broach that more often, or bring it up again and say, are you, you seem to still be struggling. Are you ready to get help yet? Because I think we could do that together, or something like that. So it can be, it can really depend on your relationship with the other person.
That's a very good point, and something that should be brought into that thought process for sure. Is there something that, so say it is a family member and they're not at a place where they're ready to talk to a professional or to go to see a doctor and see if that's actually what's going on. Is there something that individual could do themselves, like reaching out to a support line to have a conversation with them and maybe learn some tools, or booking some appointments with a mental health clinician or professional to learn more about it, and again, maybe learn some tools that they can bring into the house if it is a family member?
Well, depending on where you are, there's different services for that. I mean, I know like in one of our branches, we have a caregiver support group that happens, that really helps people who are struggling with family members who are struggling, right? So then it brings that stress across family members that, in some cases, in some provinces, I think that it's more welcome to go to a clinician and say, I need some tools or that sort of thing. But I know across the country, if you connect with your CMHA, your local CMHA, they would have some tools and some tips and tricks to reducing anxiety and stuff, and even some tools that work across a number of different issues that you can learn, like breathing techniques and that sort of thing, that you can help your person with without them naming it, if that's what the problem is.
Is when someone is ready to, you've had that conversation, or you yourself are ready to, like, okay, I something is going on, I know I need help with it, I don't really know what that looks like. Do you recommend going and seeing a doctor or your family doctor is kind of that first initial figure things out?
Absolutely. A lot of times, if the anxiety gets out of control, so that you're constantly being, hypervigilant, you're constantly jumping out of your seat, you're constantly having those thoughts, it becomes really hard to use a lot of the tools, of non-medical tools or counseling services, because you can't concentrate on it very well. So the recommended first step, of course, is to go to the doctor, make sure that you have are basically checked to see if these are real anxiety symptoms. And there's a number of medications that also can work for different medications for different people, of course. And if it's a specific anxiety disorder, sometimes there's medications that work specifically for that, but without pumping medication too much, but just saying that those things are actually quite useful in getting a person back to a baseline where they can learn tools and learn ways of managing their anxiety.
Yeah, that's, for me, the way I think about that is like, if you've broken a bone or you've got a really bad injury, you have to, one, use a painkiller, but also stay on top of your pain medication, and you might have to come in strong at the beginning to break that pain cycle. And yeah, I never thought about it that way, because sometimes we have kind of that negative connotation about requiring medication when it comes to mental illness. And I think we need to stop. We need to try to find a way to destigmatize that. So it's, if I'm really sick and I have something that I physically need antibiotics for to get better, or to, decrease the time that it takes me to get better, I'm not going to blink an eye, right? I'm going to go to the doctor, I'm going to get that antibiotics, and that doesn't mean I'm going to be on it for the rest of my life, but it's going to help me, get through the next couple of weeks or whatever it is. And yeah, I really, really like the way that you said that someone may be in a place that without having that medication, they're not able to be in a place where they can learn or be receptive to learning some of those tools, and being in a place to start building them into their day-to-day.
Yeah, well, using your broken bone analogy, it would be ridiculous to go to a physiotherapist and force you to move your elbow when it's broken. You need to do the cast first. And then once that comes off, you can start doing that physiotherapy to get your movement back, right? It's kind of the same.
Yeah, no, I love that. That's such a great way of putting it. Um, who is at risk? Like I'm thinking back to some of the times in my life where it's been, very challenging with all the different dynamics and moving pieces and stuff, and just some of the feelings of being overwhelmed and feeling anxious. And I didn't stay in that place. But was I, because of where I was at, was I more susceptible? Like, is kind of anyone susceptible to this, depending on what all is going on externally, and what is influencing kind of just their overall mental wellness on a day-to-day?
Yes, absolutely. I want to say that anxiety can actually affect anyone. So it's not that, like, there isn't anybody who, wow, I'm not strong enough, so I'm getting this, so that's why I'm struggling more than other people. It's just, it can affect anyone. So it doesn't make you weaker. It doesn't make you, less prone to that or whatever. It's, it can happen to any soul. It doesn't, we know that there are determinants of health that also affect, that they are also determinants of mental health. So statistically, if you're looking at, big picture numbers and whatnot, some of the things that can lead to anxiety are the same as leading to difficulty with any other health issue, like poverty is one, and and if other struggles, just there's maybe 12 of them. But the point is that's on the big picture numbers thing that says, okay, some people are more at risk than others, but overall it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're a student or any kind of professional, or someone who's out at the farm, or somebody, like, it doesn't matter who you are and how much you have, you can be affected by anxiety.
How would you describe, or like, how would somebody know if they were experiencing a panic attack?
Panic attacks often feel like, I've had them described to me in a number of ways by a number of people. And some folks tell me that they honestly think they're having a heart attack. They feel tightness in their chest. They feel it's hard to breathe. They can't. And then the more they think, oh my gosh, I might be having a heart attack, the tighter it gets, the harder it is to breathe. And you get yourself into this kind of cycle of not being able to function or do anything or to think of anything else. You're kind of frozen in your space. I've had others just tell me it feels like everything is completely overwhelming, and they just want to get rid of all of the faces and voices and everything that's in the room so that they can just have a moment to breathe, because it's like it's like everything is taking your attention at once. Different people experience it differently. Probably the most common way that I've heard it described is as a heart attack, though. Like, I thought I was going to die.
Is that more stereotypical to men than women, or do women feel the same way with thinking that they're having a heart attack?
Neat question. I've heard it from both.
Okay.
I've heard both. I think, I've heard the heart attack descriptor from both. I've heard more women say that it feels like, I just want to curl up in a ball and get rid of everything around me because it's all too much. So that overwhelmed, that, it feels like someone's screaming in your ear and you can't even think. I've heard more women say that. I don't know if that's, I don't have any studies to prove that that's a thing.
Yeah, I just from some of the conversations I've had, especially within agriculture, I know that there are men that have opened up, and that was the first time they realized that they were experiencing anxiety, was that they went to the hospital thinking they were having a heart attack, and that was how it presented with them.
I think that that is really a powerful way for your body to tell you that something's wrong.
Yeah.
And I think that that's why that happens is, you know, people listen to the physical symptoms. So your brain knows that.
Yeah. Yeah. And our mental health affects our physical health, even if we don't want to realize it.
True story. We're all one person.
Yes. Yeah. What you've already mentioned, I mean, we know that health is obviously provincial, so what is out there is different. So going to your doctor as kind of your first stop, and then what other types of support would be out there if you have gone to your doctor, you have an official diagnosis, and you're now moving forward with learning and progressing and working with it.
Okay, so there's a lot of resources and yet none. So, right, because you have some online resources. Those are very good, often free and available to everybody. That differs within provinces. So I know in Saskatchewan, I would recommend Online Therapy User. So they teach things like CBT stuff, so cognitive behavioral therapy, and how to talk to yourself in a different way so that you don't have as much stress, and that can be that helps a lot of people. It doesn't help everybody.
Mhm.
If you go to a community-based organization that offers courses, information, sometimes groups, sometimes peer support, sometimes a lot of those things can help. So again, that's like where I'm at. So I know we have things like online groups and in-person groups, and so you can learn from each other, right? So people can learn from each other what kind of things are work for them, and that sort of thing. So you get to learn more. You can go to counselors. A lot of times that can help with specific techniques and tools and things to help you out. For some folks, you can go to your EFAP office if you have one. You can go to various counseling services that are within your community. Sometimes there's some free things offered. Sometimes it can cost a little bit or quite a lot, depending on where you are and what you're looking for, how often you're looking for someone to help you out with things. And at first, most people find at first they need a lot more support, and then once they start learning tools and things, they can reduce that support.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. It goes back to thinking about the medication at first too, right? Helping out to get you into a place where you're able to start working on some of those tools and doing things in your day-to-day. I think we've covered a lot of ground. We've definitely hit the questions that I had. Is there anything that we haven't touched on today that you wanted to bring up?
I'm going to cycle back to the medication thing for just a moment. And I want to encourage people that if you do go and get like medication for yourself or help somebody go to the doctor, and it doesn't seem to be working right away, it generally takes 2 weeks or more for medication to be working. So there are a lot of different meds that you can take for anxiety, and some work better than others for different people, right? But before you change, give the things a shot on on working, because making changes to those medications can actually be very hard on your body, and it does take some time. So I know that there are some folks that I've encountered who call me up, and I've been on anxiety medication for 2 days and it's not working, and should I call my doctor? And I'm thinking, you're actually overthinking this because you have anxiety, and you need to remember, give it some time. So
Mm-hmm. And I'm sure that's hard, right? You're wanting something to work right away. That's a really great, important comment. And I would add to that, please also don't take yourself off anything without working with your doctor on how best to do that.
Yes, because some of those medications that that work on your mental health can be very it can be very destructive to do things like cold turkey. You might have to do it in a stepped process. Your doctor can guide you through that. They'll know how to do that.
Yeah, exactly. For those of you who've been watching, thank you so much. If you're looking for more information, you can visit the CMHA websites or offices. You can also check out our website, which is domore.ag. Thank you again so much, Rebecca, for joining us for the second time to talk about anxiety. We really appreciate all of the insight and all of the important information you shared.
Well, thanks very much for inviting me to do so. And I hope that there are some listeners out there who have thought, oh, gee, I think maybe I could help somebody this way, or I could use this information, because that's what we're all about, is just spreading some information that might work out for somebody. So,
well, thank you so much. Everyone out there, have a great night, and thank you again.